Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law on My FM 101.3. I can see this. I'm looking over here
good.
now.
Finally.
Yeah,
Great.
finally.
Excellent.
With your host, Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group, and he's joined by me, John Drohan from Main Effort Financial, and we, of course, are joined by the Holliston Cable Access TV, Christian Bidet, our senior producer.
Yeah.
And here we are, Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. We talk about all things money and all things law. My friend, how are you today?
I'm good, but I'm a little thrown off today.
You're thrown.
Because you came dressed to impress today, and I'm not going to say that you don't dress well, because you always are very sharp dressed man, as the great ZZ Top would say.
I don't.
But today, you look like you're going to court, and it's making me a little bit nervous.
There's no court appearances today.
Okay.
But I will say this: it's the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah.
It's our first show of the new year of 2021. Happy New Year, everybody!
Yes. Happy New Year.
And this is part of my New Year's resolution. I am going to step it
up. I love this.
Yeah.
I love this. You know what? Because I said to myself the same exact thing.
I mean,
without even planned this.
You know what? And here's the thing. When you say that you're well dressed, that is the biggest, most fabricated thing. That is, I understand you're trying to be kind to me, but I'm not.
You're a well-dressed guy, and Trump won the election. How about that? There you go. We're going to partner those up. So everybody will know what that means.
Both of them are equally true.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I'm going to try and just maybe a little bit. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not selling all my stuff, but I want to impress a little bit more. To my colleagues. I want to be able. So you think that I'm professional. I'm as professional as I claim to be, and to our audiences. So yeah.
Well, a lot of people are starting to ask. They say to me, "So Jay, now you do that show. I've seen you guys on TV, and you do that show with your trainer. It looks like he comes right from the gym when you guys get together." And I would say, that's not how it works. I mean, you can't see it because he does have a pair of dress pants and some shoes on, but the radio doesn't show those, right? He does the opposite. Most people would show up with a very nice shirt and tie and then shorts and flip-flops on. You like to do it because you're your own man. Yeah. You would do the opposite, right?
I like my shoes.
You would show up in a tank top and a tuxedo pants and a pair of shiny black shoes. So that's how you roll.
Too much time at the gym. No,
dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Exactly.
Isn't that how it works? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Although I do want this job, and I'm happy to do my job, and that's the other thing. I'm part of we talked about our resolutions. One of my others, I'm going to be a little bit more grateful for some of the things that we have, right?
Yep.
As I was thinking about it, I enjoy my job. Yep. I enjoy the fact that I get to, I always tell people my job is to make people happy. And at the end of the day, our job is to make people happy by not having them have to worry about money. And not have to really, so.
Oh, we say the same thing in the office. We say our value as a firm is a direct function of how many people we help.
That's right.
That's what we say. We say we help you get your estate plan. That's our value. That's our value. And as I was walking out the door today, somebody said, what's your goal in 2021? I said, well, this is my goal. About just under 50% of the population has a will, and my goal for 2021 is to do the wills for the other half of the population. That's my goal.
Wow.
It's a little aggressive. It's a little aggressive.
Not unreasonable. Not unreasonable.
No. I'm sort of thinking what? We have to vaccinate everybody anyway. So while you're getting your vaccination, why don't we sneak in a little estate planning consultation? This coronavirus vaccine brought to you by Marsden Law. Maybe it's on the needles. Maybe it's on something. There's some way for us to work this in.
Nothing like having your name on a
life-saving vaccination. Absolutely right. That's right. Not those needles. That's a different needle. That's right. Yep. That's right. Needle and a spoon. That's right. Go Neil Young, who just sold half his catalog.
A needle and a spoon. Yep. No, you don't want your name on the spoon.
Not the spoon. Not the spoon. Or the needle, for that matter. No, but if anybody gets that reference, email the show.
Yeah.
Email the show. Great Neil Young.
I'm just trying to think of the mechanics of. You may have to streamline that estate plan just a little bit if you're going to be able to knock those out.
You have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Well, you know what though? be a lot of people in line, so I'll get you while you're in line.
So-
I'm not going to
yeah.
get you while you're getting the vaccine.
No.
But while you're standing in line, hey, hi, how are you?
How do you
Welcome,
spell your last
welcome,
name?
great.
Yeah.
Hey, if you could just fill this intake sheet out while you're standing here, I'll be back in a minute to collect it, and then we'll be good to go.
Actually, I'll tell you how you do it. There's a way to do it. There's got to be. If someone's thought of this,
Sure.
there's got to be a way to do this on a secure website.
Oh, I've heard of those
there you
things,
go.
yeah.
So a secure website, you just say here, just let me download this website, and there you go. Or
Absolutely.
Jay Marsden.
Absolutely.
Marsden Law, instant estate plan app as while you're waiting for your vaccine.
This life-saving vaccination brought to you by the good folks at Marsden Law.
Yeah, you could spin it any way you want.
Planning for the other half. That's right. That's
You
right.
could say, if the vaccination were not to take effect for you, then here you go.
Yeah.
Then you're right.
You're
just
buttoned
like-
up. You're buttoned up
Yeah,
either way.
you're-
Buttoned
right,
up
you're
either way.
covering all
That's
your
how we do
bases.
it. That's how we do it.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Oh.
All right, so
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Right
Happy,
back,
how you
actually.
feeling? How you 2021? What do you? We always there's a bit of a theme to the way the show goes. End of the year. There's always an end of the year wrap
There's a
up.
rhythm.
There's always an end of the year wrap up, and then the beginning of the year. There's always a resolution
Here we
show,
go.
and
Yeah.
this is it. This is the resolution show. What do you have? What do you got for me? Anything?
So, like I said, I'd
By
like.
the way, the resolutions that our valuable audience can say, I'm on board with that, or what is he thinking? What do you got?
or not, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's always the standard resolutions.
Sure.
I want to lose some weight. I want to increase my. I want to work out a little bit more. I want to be in better shape. And then you have your professional ones. I want to make sure that we present a good image. I want to make sure that we we connect with our clients better.
Sure.
You're always trying all the things you're always trying to do better, and the new year is always a place to where it's a great starting point,
Yep.
right? It's a great starting point. Everybody kind of feels the same way. Everybody's they're kind of in that same mindset, so that's good. But I think like I said earlier, I think that my number one resolution this year is going to be to try and just be less caught up in the in the pipeline and the whirlwind of all
Sure.
the things that are going on, and try and be okay. If I'm here with you right now, then you have my undivided attention.
Oh, in the moment.
Yep.
Yep.
And if I'm talking to Christian about some of the ins and outs of like how the cameras work or how the show gets produced, he's going to get my undivided attention. I'm going to try and do that better. I mean,
Yep.
it's it's easy to say,
Yeah,
but
sure.
But if you do it and you slow things down and really you're able to kind of, at least this is what I think, you can slow things down just enough, it's gonna be better. Even like the moments that you really aren't excited about, right?
Right.
Like I'm getting ready to go get my teeth drilled, or I'm getting ready to get some news from a doctor or something like that. That's even those moments. That's it. They're your moments.
Yeah,
Whether
yeah.
you take them or leave them. So
Yep.
you have like we said, we only have so much time. So
Yeah. Understood.
so
Understood.
so use your time wisely.
Yeah. Understood. Yeah.
So that's the number one. I mean, it's a little it's a little philosophical and all that stuff. And,
No, not
but,
really. No, it's actually.
But
no.
but if you can, and I'm sure I won't be able to do it perfectly all the time. But if you think to do it better, then you're like anything, you're going to do it better.
Yeah. I'm with you.
That, and I want to learn how to play the guitar.
Nice. I can help you with that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I do. I'm. You think I'm kidding?
No, I don't.
That's
think
what
you
I
did.
asked
No,
for
I
my
don't think you
birthday.
did. Nice.
No,
All right.
no.
Fantastic.
So, and one of the things is that we have. We'll get to you in a minute. One of the
No, please. Don't hurry.
is that so? As you know, as many of you know, there's a very important party that didn't happen this year, and it's our neighborhood Christmas party
Yes.
with some other special invites that happen. So my goal next year is to provide at least some of the live music at that party.
You are speaking my language.
Yeah, and so you and of course you as an accomplished guitarist yourself, you may be invited.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm inviting you now.
To
I mean,
sit
you're already
in?
invited to the party.
You sit in.
No, I just to help to
okay.
help carry the music.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So I already have a song list I'm working on, but
Nice.
that's it. Yeah,
That's great. I love it. I love it.
So how about you?
Similar to what you mentioned in the beginning, it's sort of to try to live a little bit more intentionally.
Yeah.
And I'm a great one for sitting around and saying, I know what I got to do. I got to clean that up. I gotta go through the clothes and throw out the
You
stuff
can make
I
a
haven't
list as
worn.
good as anybody.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. Now, whether I execute on it or execute on half on it, But I was when I sat down and started my journal for the year, because I want to follow and sit down and write stuff down and have one of those right there that said, this is what I got to get done. The title of it was 2021, the year of getting stuff done.
Wow.
And that's it. That's what it was. And it's just about, thinking up stuff, writing it down, not forgetting about it. That way I can put it out of my head that I didn't, because I'm not going to remember it. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to forget about it by the time the show's over. And then go back and say, did I do that? Did I do that? Did I do? So it's going to be kind of like a big checklist year. But otherwise, if I don't do it that way, it doesn't get done. So there's some accountability there by writing it down. And that's really it. I mean, that's the goal. I mean, the other stuff, I think I don't really treat those as resolutions anymore. You try to eat a little bit better. You try to, work out a little bit more. That's just about building it into your lifestyle. I don't make that a resolution anymore. It's
right, because then it's like, then if you miss, right? If you don't, then
you give up and you're like, oh, I gave up. It's February. I can't go to the gym anymore. Whatever it is. I don't bother with that. But I think more about the idea of just what you mentioned. I went through my phone and all the apps that I know I lollygag on. When something goes up, I put a timer on all of them. And I'm like, all right, this is it. You want to.
So you're an hour and a half on Instagram a day.
Not on the gram, not on the gram. But I'll read Google News 100 times a day. I'll read HuffPost 100 times a day. I'll read the New York Times 50 times to see why isn't it refreshing? Why isn't it refreshing?
Yeah.
So
because you already read those stories.
Yeah, that's right. Because nothing's happened in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I went through all that because I want to use that time better, right? So I said, look, this is how much time you get on these things, and when you run out of time, you're out of. That's it. I mean, that's don't just sit there and just dive into the black rabbit hole that is the internet and pick your head up 11 hours later and be like, what do we do today? This was more about, get up, read the newspaper, move on, and
how easy is that to do, right? How easy because it's right there. Yeah. It's right in front of you, and you can, with anything, whether it be a social media platform or anything, this is kind of where our society is right now, where and kids, especially like the kids who really are, spend a lot of time on their devices. You're like, look, if you just you have to physically, consciously say, I need to disconnect from this, because you're just, everything naturally brings you there. So if I'm on my computer, right? I'm on my computer. I have the Wall Street Journal right there. You can't help it, they build it that way. I mean,
they absolutely. I mean, we could talk about that movie, The Social Dilemma, later about how that whole thing works. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and on top of that, let's all agree that in addition to letting ourselves go physically, right? For those of us who've been sitting around watching Netflix for 10 months, you also let yourself go from like a social. Sort of self-regulatory perspective, just being like, it's a pandemic. Yeah. 15 hours on your device isn't a problem. It would have been a problem before, but now we don't care because COVID. Right. And you're just swiping away, and you're just diving in. So, trying to kind of a little more self-regulation on that, and then and then put that time to better use, whether it's with the kids, whether it's with my wife, whether it's getting stuff done at the house, but. Just a kind of a come to.
Well, you're a big reader, right? You're a guy.
I like to read. I do like to read.
Who really likes to. So you think, and it's almost like you have to kind of you have to make that time, because in the old days, it just kind of your day naturally progressed to that. But it's almost like now it's because especially for people who are now doing most of their work from home. That was one of my biggest complaints when I first started. All guys like us always start working at the house.
Always.
Right? Is that you never leave work. So now you're kind of back there at that place where you're really, especially now with the access to your email, your access to, to your clients, and their access to you is, all my clients, they call me on my cell phone. It's not like they don't even call the office hardly anymore. And it's, it's like I never leave work. So now you have to, now I'm back there. And now I have to say, well, look, I really want to, I really want to read this book. I got this great book. In fact, the book that I got for Christmas is the one that I asked for, which is the Jimmy Carter biography.
Oh yeah, sure. Jimmy Carter. Why not? Yeah.
I mean, so far, well, we'll talk about that another day. So I started that. So I'd love to just sit down and be able to carve out time. But again, there's other things that have to happen, right? You want to, it's easy to not spend. It's easy to kind of, we have teenagers, right? So it's they don't want to.
They're on red alert. They're on red alert 24/7.
But they're not looking to. They're not saying, "Hey, Dad, you want to hang out?" Like in the old days where they'd kind of look for you. Now you have to kind of make sure you have to make it happen, because if not, it's easy. It's really easy to not make it. For just to let that time go by. So
yeah. So that's really about. Oh, and by the way, and also other things like they're related to the show, right? So I'm trying to go back, and this is a good time of the year, right? So all of our insurance policies have come in, and all of our renewals on a bunch of things have come in. So I'm trying to make sure I sit down and go through all those at the right time, and I'm trying to automate the daylights out of things like paying bills and stuff like that, so that stuff, it's easy to kind of get into this. Oh, I'll put it right here and I'll do it later. I'll put it right here and I'll do it later. I'll put it right and do it later. Then you get this Corolla-sized mountain of stuff, and you're like, I got to go through that. So trying to part of that intentional, live a little more intentionally, trying to kind of open that up and be like, what, we just pay this right now. Yeah. I can either take my phone out and pay it off my phone, or I know it's on auto pay, it's getting taken care of. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, or you put it into, or you get that system, right? And I remember, a million years ago, we had a commander who a guy by the name of Jim Sykes, and he was one of those guys who they thought you knew never was going to make it, like to the general, because he was too smart. And that was like one of those things, like if he's too smart, then people are afraid of him. And he was that guy.
Yeah.
And he was so organized and his thing was, and he would kind of give these classes to all the junior officers and say, look, you guys need to be organized. You need to get your, because it was busy. And he'd say, look, what I do, I touch a piece of paper once.
Yeah.
So if I know that I have my bills there, right? If I know that if I grab it, then I'm going to deal with it, right? And if I know I don't have the time to do that, then I'm going to leave it alone.
Great point.
Right? And then so when it's time to do the bills, I get into it and I touch it once. And this was long before we had automation and
sure.
Well, not that long before.
No, but you sat down and broke out the checkbook. But that's the point. Yeah.
But it was that kind of I'm that this time is set aside for this. This time is set aside for this.
Yeah.
And that's the it's so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
And again, all of kind of these other intermittent distractions, which are going to happen anyway. Like there's distractions. That's just part of life. But if you can minimize them, and you can minimize the ones you can control the ones of whether or not you get on your news app and start looking at your news app, or you can control whether or not you start going through your email. Oh, I'm going to read some emails. I'm going to answer some emails. Like now, just because it's there, one just came up.
It's boredom. Yeah. So you pick and choose. Yeah.
I like it. So are you a list guy? Like, have you been a guy who's like,
no.
So you're not a list guy?
I'm going to hopefully become a list guy this year, but no, I was not a list guy before. Before it was like, whatever. It's important. Somebody will let me know I got to do it. Yeah. That's not necessarily the default way to do it. Usually it would be my wife who would say, you didn't do that. Oh, okay, now I'll do it. Right? That's fine. So this way, this is about kind of heading some of this stuff off at the pass.
I like it. I like it.
All right, we'll take a quick break.
Let's take a break.
Yeah, well,
stretch out.
Been at it for a while. Yeah.
Maybe we can iron some clothes.
You might need to loosen one of those buttons there. Give yourself a little room.
No, I got a lot of room. A lot of room. I wore this shirt particularly. All right, we'll be right back on Money and Law, My FM 101.3. Christian, think about what your resolutions are. Maybe you can hold them up in front of the camera when we come back. All right, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back. And we're back. Money and the Law, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Christian steering us through the interstellar space area here, just getting it all done for us. We're talking right before this about some personal items, about sort of what you're trying to accomplish for the new year. That's right. But trying to get some things nailed down. What are you telling your clients beginning of the year? This is a big in the financial world. Like the cannon goes off January 1st, whenever it goes off. It's a big deal.
It's like
right?
It's like the Boston Marathon starts.
Yes, absolutely. Ran it 3 times, but absolutely, it goes off. That's right.
Three-time winner.
Three-time finisher.
Three-time finisher. I'm not really sure I don't know where I placed in my age group during that time. Right?
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm not sure. We could go back and look at it, but I was in. You can look
3
it up.
times.
Yeah.
First 3 years of law school. Did I mention that? Go ahead.
You did mention that you won the marathon.
Yeah.
I only ran the Boston Marathon one time, and it was that's another story.
We talked about this on the show. Yeah. It's the one thing, real quick, before we'll digress.
Before we talk about other
before we talk about things, it's the one athletic event in Boston that makes you feel like a superstar the day you're doing it.
It sounds
right?
like
And we
Jace, it sounds like you're training for something.
But I mean, we
Getting
joked,
motivated?
but we joked about it because, you know, you might be a huge Boston Celtics fan. They're never going to let you suit up for a game, right? I don't care I don't care who they're beating by how much. You're never going to get to take a layup, right? You know,
and you know what? Thank God.
Well, that's right. Like, you're a Sox fan, right? You never get to stand in Fenway Park, right, in the left field, right, where hallowed ground, right,
Yeah.
and wait for a ball to get hit to you. You're a sports fan and you like the marathon.
Yeah.
They will give you a ticket and say, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead, be part of history, run the marathon,
Yeah.
right? It's the only
Everybody cheers for you.
That's
no
right.
matter
That's
how
right.
fast
That's,
or slow you're
that's
running.
exactly right. You feel like a superstar. You
Yeah.
feel like you're leading it. So
Yeah.
that's if this was your New Year's resolution was to do something like this, do it. I can't
Well,
say it
I
enough.
don't know.
Well, whether they have it or not, that's a different animal.
That's
But
right. So that's the question.
but
I,
if you're
I don't
gonna
know
train
if
for
they've-
it,
I don't
it's
know
worth
if
it.
they've talked because, of course, last year it didn't happen.
that's right. Yep.
and
Virtual
so-
is no fun.
No, the
26 on a treadmill, not fun.
Well, that's
Not fun.
That's a that's a different animal.
That's a totally
that's
different
really
animal.
I think the people who did the virtual one actually ran outside, but it
Oh.
wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't on a treadmill.
No.
I know Joanne O'Connell. Joanne, my friend, my
God
coworker,
bless her.
Joanne,
God bless
ran up and down. I mean, she ran back and forth from Holliston to Milford like 23 times.
Oh.
She did it with my man Max Affey, right?
Go get him. Go get him.
So I mean,
So what are you telling your clients?
so what am I? You know, like you said, this is kind of like the start of the new year. The first thing we do is, and again, not to sound kind of, you know, boring and, you know,
Formulaic.
right, required
Right word.
minimum.
Yeah.
But the first thing we do, again, I try to spend, and of course, we give all of our clients, you know, as much attention as
Oh, yeah.
as we possibly can. But
Yeah.
there's always a soft spot in my heart. There's always is for our retired clients, and not for any other. It's just because, you know, these
they
are
have the
people
most
that,
money. I
these are
understand.
people. Well, that's not true necessarily,
All
but
right.
these are people that have kind of they've worked their whole lives, and
Sure.
and especially if we're managing their retirement, they've essentially given us. They say,
Oh,
here,
yeah.
here's my stuff. Make sure that my retirement goes well. So you know, it's a big responsibility for us. So the first thing we look at is the people who are taking the required minimum distribution. So as many of you know, last year for 2020, the required minimum distribution or minimum required distribution, if you're dependent upon which side of the Fidelity aisle you're on,
Left Twix, right Twix. Yep.
is that you didn't have to take it. So, but now in 2021, the year starts again.
Unless something changes.
So the required minimum distribution, you know, as of right now, is going to be required. So what many of our clients do is they take it monthly as part of their income.
Sure.
So the first thing we do is we kind of revisit that. We say, okay, and we do this across the board with all of the people who are taking income, and this is a really good time to look at it. You can say, okay, what's our income situation look like? And you know, do we need to adjust it? Do we need to make adjustments? If it's a required minimum distribution, it'll automatically adjust because they'll be most likely dependent upon, well, not necessarily, but depending upon what the numbers look like, they may be able to be required to take more or take less. And
why would the number that they're supposed to take out of their account change? Because their MRD or RMD is based on?
On their life expectancy.
Well, and the value of their account.
Exactly.
From,
Yeah.
right?
So those two numbers, right?
Yeah,
So everybody, unfortunately, you can't change your age. So you're going to be another year older, but it's also based on what the balance was at the end on December 31st.
Yeah. So if we had a halfway decent year and your portfolio did okay, then you say to yourself, oh, we got to take more money out this year.
You may have to. Yeah. And that's important because when you look at like income and you say, well, you know, and this is what we say, everything, it's all about income. It's all about, you know, up until the day you go, right? The day you pass to the next stratosphere, it's all about income. And that's really what people care about is like that, their income, make sure they have enough income to cover their expenses, make sure they have enough income to do all the things they want to do. And, you know, so that income adjustment, particularly based around the required income that you have to take, that's the first thing that's the first kind of near target that we take down.
Nice.
All right, what's going on in the law firm? What are we telling our clients as we start the new year?
Well, actually, you know, we're kind of the same way that you guys do the annual reviews from a portfolio perspective. We encourage our clients to say, this is a good time to sit down and review a couple of things. Number one, does the plan still work in the sense that are all the agents, are all the players that you have lined up in the plan, are they still the right people, right? So the person that you wanted to be your healthcare proxy, the person you wanted to be your power of attorney, has that all stayed the same, or has that changed? In some cases, God forbid something's happened, people have passed away, people have had some changes in their life, and they want to make some adjustments to their plan because of those things, right? They might have had, some of the people that might have been their agents may have passed, and they need to sort of figure out, do I have to update my plan and make some changes there? One of the big things that we saw this year at the end of the year, and I think we're going to see more of it going into it as the kids start to get back to school, is we did a fair amount of planning for sort of the newly minted adults. You know, we had a lot of kids that were, you know, that for clients of ours, that we always remind the clients, or remind our clients who are the parents to say, look, when those kids go off to school, you're not going to be able to do a lot of the things that you think you're going to do, because those kids have all become adults now and they're 18, and you don't have the same, you know, you don't hold the same sway over their particular situation without them green lighting that. So that'll be a big part of it this year, to talk about if there's, you know, if we've had some birthdays and people have turned 18, it's time to.
And that's really important.
Tune that piece
I mean,
up.
that's really important, because people don't see that coming, right? You know,
No.
I mean, when you think about it, when you're getting ready to send your kid off to college, there's so many other things. I mean, you know, my baby is leaving, and you're thinking about all of the laundry list of things that you want to make sure that they're set up for, you know, just for everything that needs to get done. If you don't think about the fact that, you know, now, you know, once they turn 18, they're legal adults. And legal adults, it's a different world. It's a different, when you're talking about medical things, like you don't have the same, you don't necessarily have the same access to their information, and you don't, and with respect to the school, even though, I mean, that's the thing, like, even though you may be paying the bill at the school, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have access to the same access that the student has.
Well, I mean, think about it. The assumption, of course, obviously, is that you and your kids, which I know, you and your kids have a great relationship, and everybody who knows you and your kids have a great relationship, and that's the world that we all ideally want to live in. But once you get outside of the circle of trust, nobody knows that.
Right.
You know, the people at the school have no idea what kind of relationship I have with my daughters, and whether or not my daughter's on board with me wanting to do certain things. And, you know, again, they're independent now. They're adults, and they might say, look, I don't, you know, my business is my business now, you know, and if you have a little bit of a contentious relationship with your child, this is where they assert their independence, and they're going to say, I don't want you to have access to certain things. And so this could be a problem. So you're right. The assumption is not from everybody in the outside world. Of course, John can ask all the questions he wants to ask. What do we care? They make no distinction. They go, look, they're an adult. You're going to get permission.
Privacy is a big deal.
Yes.
Right? Privacy is it's particularly like medical privacy, but privacy, you know, amongst that, and unfortunately, you know, that we're lucky that we're in that position where we have a relatively good relationship with our children. Sure. But many people don't, and you know, so the schools that you're dealing with, the institutions that they're dealing with, they know that, and they deal with all shapes and sizes of what families are like. So they know that, you know, there's, I mean, I'm sure they have plenty of examples where, yeah, the kid goes to school, doesn't have, you know, or there may be a situation with parents who are divorced or separated or things like that. So their job is to adhere to the rules and adhere to the law. So one of those, you know, and again, you know, you may have the best intentions of the world. Like, I just care about my kid. I want to, I want to know what their grades are. I want to know this. I want to know that. And it, you know, unless it's been, you know, like you said,
it's a partnership. Now it's a partnership.
Yeah, it's
now you're going to work together, right? Now you're going to work together, right? Now you're going to find out those things.
And for many parents, this one included, I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds.
No.
You know,
No.
so because it changes, and that's the thing about it. It changes almost overnight, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you're here, you know, up until August or September when they leave for school, it's been the same rule book. And then as soon as they go, the rule book, it's a different book.
Yeah. So there's that conversation. And by the way, with that conversation goes the idea of, now that the kids are older and now that they can be part of the planning, if you wanted them to be part of the planning, is it time to do that? You know, the kids that you needed to plan for guardianship for all those years don't need guardians anymore. Are they going to become your backup healthcare proxy? Are they going to become your backup power of attorney? And
it's a lot.
Well, it can be a lot.
I mean, I'm getting tired just, you know, as you're saying this, right?
Yeah.
Because it's overwhelming, and it's overwhelming for parents, particularly if it's their first time around.
Well, that's right. That's right. And by the way, and just because they turn 18 doesn't necessarily mean they should get those jobs.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, we've counseled clients and we've said to them, look, you know, my kids probably could handle it. I think they have really good heads on their shoulders, and they're smart, and they do well in school. But the emotional burden, if you will, of stepping in and helping out your parents at that point, they're just not ready for it. They're just not there. And you think that they really, you see them in their day-to-day, and you're like, well, as far as getting up and driving around in the car and getting gas and picking up their friends, they got it all figured out. The idea of stepping in and making decisions for mom and dad, that's a different animal on another platform, on another level. And so you have to sort of incorporate that. So it might not be time, but here's what it could be time to do. It could be time to at least start the conversation.
Yeah.
That says, look, we've done some planning. If something happens to us, we've made provisions for you guys. Here's what it looks like. Not that you want to scare them. You can start off with everybody's fine. Everybody's fine, first and foremost.
So if something happens to mom and dad, you're going to have a new mom. That's going to be your sister.
That's right. So that could have gone really strange there for a second. But so it's those things. And then the other thing is we're trying to just remind clients, if you talked about funding your accounts and things like that last year, and you never get around to that. This is a good time to do it because you're going to start to get tax paperwork in the mail that's going to really, highlight where your assets lie, where they live, what you need to. So if you're looking to sort of figure out like, oh, how do I change the accounts and I haven't done it, this is a good time to do it. And then this is also the beginning of, we kind of call it consolidation season, where look, let's the 80 tax forms you got, next year you can get one. If we do it right, why don't we start doing some of that? So it's a lot of housekeeping, if you will, but on the law side, it's also we do have a lot of folks who have said this is a 2021 project for us. We're not getting into it yet, so we'll follow up on them to kind of rattle the cage a little bit and say you talked about doing this in 2021. It's here. Let's kind of get that process started. So that's what we're working on.
I like the idea of. I do like the idea of like connecting with your clients. I like the idea, because estate planning and the planning that you're talking about it can be daunting, right? It can feel overwhelming. We've talked about this on the show before, but the idea of saying, hey, hey, it's me, and it's a new year, so and everybody's kind of got in the back of their mind, they're like, yeah, it's the new year, and it's going to be a whole lot different than it was last year. So, the fact that, of you guys being proactive and saying, hey, it's Jay and it's us, and this is one of the things we talked about. And it's important. We don't have to do it today.
Right.
We don't have to do, but this is something that I want you to think about, because then that gives them the the ability to kind of start getting in the right mindset, and maybe answering. Maybe there was a question that they were hung up on. Maybe there was. We find that a lot. Maybe that there's always like the guardianship question. So if we were stuck on who was going to be the guardian, or we weren't really sure, or if we feel like that, we've had this person as our guardian of our kids for all this time, and we're just not, things. So maybe something's changed. Maybe they got married, or they didn't get, they got divorced, and you're like, they're just in a different position than they were last time. Now might be the time to make that adjustment.
Yeah, and it's and it's a good time to go through it. It's a good time to review it. Every time we do planning for somebody who's been pushing it off for a long time, almost to a person, they always say afterwards, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah.
They're glad they get it done, a little peace of mind, and they say, I thought that was going to be a lot more work than it was. And especially with COVID now, people are a little bit more willing to say, look, what? How much of this can we get done virtually, right? So we'll do Zoom calls with clients. We'll do phone consultations. We can accomplish a lot of the legwork prior to just getting together and signing everything. And a lot of people like that from a scheduling perspective. They say, look, I thought this was going to be a lot more work than it was, but we were able to bang a lot of it out over the phone and emails and back and forth. So now we just get together and sign everything. And again, everyone's busy, so we're keeping the numbers down. And we call it everybody's COVID comfort level. You want to come in, but if not, we can do a lot of this virtually, so that's helped out.
I just had a fantastic idea.
Please.
And I will share it before we go to our
Happy
break.
to steal it. Go ahead.
Oh no, this is an idea for you. This is for you.
Okay.
And I'm because many. So it's also, this is continuing education season. So Jay is my proctor for all of my continuing education that I have to do.
Always.
Yeah. See, why wouldn't I call my lawyer? But I just thought about, so in my mind, when you're talking about, well, what are the things that we can do virtually, and to kind of maybe just some things to kind of ease the anxiety that comes along with that estate planning process, is I think you need to do a series of YouTube videos, maybe some how-to of like different steps of the estate planning process, and I'd be willing to help you with those.
Well, we have a YouTube channel, and that we can do. Actually, that's you talk about those are we talked about our personal goals, but a lot of our professional goals are to put some more content out there for folks and help them.
But I like the idea of maybe doing it with a little bit of I don't know, maybe a little levity,
a little panache,
a little levity in the
Sure.
like have that concerned client. I don't want anybody to know my name and whatever.
Sure.
And I think
the role of the client will be played by John Drohan.
I'm happy to do it.
Sure.
I'm happy to help.
God, selfless.
I'm thinking about
your shirt, your heart's falling
I'm
out.
just thinking about how funny that would be. but in some ways it could be.
Are you going to wear that outfit and those glasses?
Oh,
if you're going to dress up like you dress now,
I don't know.
Now it all becomes clear. You came in here all gussing up, right? You came up, right? Bell of the ball, because you said, I'm going to talk my way into Jay's commercial.
Jay's YouTube channel.
That's it right there.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you don't have to use me. You don't have to use. There's other more accomplished actors out there.
Well, let's not say that. Come on, let's not get carried away.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back. We're going to talk more about resolutions. Christian, we didn't get yours this break, so write them down, and we're gonna read them on the air as soon as we come back. All right. We'll be right back. My FM 101.3, Money and the Law. See you in a sec.
And we're back. Money and the Law, My FM on 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Christian steering us through the heavens. And we're talking resolutions 2021. Good time to kind of wipe the slate clean for a whole host of reasons and kind of get back on track with a bunch of things, or at least pick up where maybe some things left off last year and get them taken care of. Check some boxes. And we've talked about a bunch of John's personal and professional resolutions for most of the show.
And artistic.
I was allowed to throw, that's right, artistic. I was allowed to throw a couple of things in there at the end, right before the break. So we're back, and here we are. It's all good.
So that with that said, so you said you had like you have personal and some professional goals. So where do you see like the issues, like some of the issues in your practice or like kind of in your field? Like what are some of like the the first thing that comes to mind is like law changes and things like that.
Yeah.
So what are the things that you like want to be on the lookout for?
Yeah. So that's a great point. So what we'll be on the lookout for, and a lot of this stuff comes up, let's say third quarter, fourth quarter of last year, which there's a lot of articles that get written about what you potentially could see in a Biden administration and what the potential law changes could look like in a Biden administration. We try to avoid steering. I mean, it's maybe it's eye candy, maybe it's clickbait. It gets people to look at stuff. We sort of steer away from that because the process of what those things are going to look like is so long and so drawn out. And our theory has always been, why even get people all worked up if that's what happens as a result of some of these hypotheticals? Because the sausage-making process that is the legislative, agenda, who knows what that's going to look like? But you bring up those are the things that we think about. We look at a couple of things. We look at potential. The big one is potentially any changes to the estate tax thresholds and where those laws go. And if the Biden administration says, look, if we have a real progressive agenda this year, and we want to sort of, we want to twist the Internal Revenue Code in such a way that, it moves into more of a wealth transfer, intergenerational wealth transfer footing, if you will. Then you say to yourself, all right, now we run the risk that the estate tax comes back, and then you have to start thinking about planning that had been a big part of what people had done, when the threshold was much lower. Does that become back into vogue, right?
Sure.
And the same thing happens for you guys, because, if the estate tax threshold goes up and people start doing more sort of A/B trust planning and they're starting to plan for the possibility of estate taxes if the thresholds come way down, then there's a lot of opportunities, not opportunities if you will, but there's a lot of planning suggestions that are going to come out of the investment side where people are going to say, geez, we haven't done, second to die life insurance policies as a way to cover people's estate taxes for 10 years because the threshold's been so high. But now with the threshold coming down, then those types of policies become kind of back in vogue, and then we end up doing more irrevocable life insurance trusts. And so those are the things that I think are probably, first and foremost that I think about that are on our mind, just from a planning perspective.
And I'm sure you get, like you said, it's, so now like the news is out there and there's a lot of discussion about it. So, you get kind of your active clients, like the ones that are really involved. They're like, hey, they'll call you up on, on Monday morning and say, hey, what about this? I just read this. Is there something we need to do about this? Is there something we need to do? And, that whole idea of maybe, but right now we're not going to make any changes because, and it's good for you. It's good for me because it says, it makes us kind of say, okay, we need to think about these things because if there's something that if we wait on it, right, and if we wait for it to kind of happen, are we going to be behind in any kind of in planning situation, or is it going to affect kind of how we would have done if we knew the law was going to change, or if we knew there was going to be some adjustment today, but it wasn't going to happen for 9 months? Then would we have liked to gone back in time and made that change then?
Well, and some of it's retroactive, depending on how close to the beginning of the year it happens, for example. But a lot of it's not.
Yep.
And a lot of it depends on things like how the economy recovers. A lot of it depends on how much revenue the federal government makes. Years ago, with the invention of the Roth IRA and people prepaying all their taxes, one of the things that drove a lot of the creation of the Roth IRA at the time was the government's need for revenue. And they said, look, if we could talk people into cashing out their IRAs now and paying us the taxes, we'll kick that can down the road.
Sure.
But we could use the revenue now, and that's kind of one of the things that drove. So the idea that these types of planning opportunities, or the idea that these types of investment products just sort of materialize out of thin air, they do not. They absolutely do not. There's a bunch of people who wear the green visors, locked in a room, that are poring over the tax code and changes to the tax code, who will then come up with these planning strategies that you'll get a ton of information about, that we'll get a ton of information about. And we've always talked about the value of working with an advisor. The value is that this is what we do. You get this stuff and you enjoy reading it and you understand it and it makes sense. And this material, when you're in the business, this information finds you, finds me, and so you get to sort of
which is one of the good, the blessings and curses at the same time. You're inundated with stuff. I will say one of the things that when you think about, and again, this is something that it kind of crosses in both of our avenues, is the idea of inflation, and how, like, what is because inflation is kind of this nebulous thing that people don't think about. They don't talk about. Many people don't understand it. It hasn't been an issue for us in
for years.
20 years, right? So we haven't. No one's really kind of seen. We haven't really experienced like true inflation. So and the idea of what the impact that inflation has on all of your planning, on your estate planning, on your financial planning, on your retirement planning, and on just your everyday life, it's significant. So that whole concept of what does inflation do? Like if inflation goes up, then the interest rates go up. So your mortgage interest rates could go up. If inflation goes up, then your ability to borrow money is going to be, for if you just buying a car or
if you're on a fixed income, your money's worth less, right? You've taken a pay cut, even though you're not working.
Right, you're fixed. And then from an estate planning standpoint, you say if inflation goes up, you say, well, how am I? This is how I originally thought my estate plan was going to be. If something were to happen to me, then how would my family continue to generate income? And if with the increase of inflation, is that income going to be enough? And do I have to make any changes to do that? So,
well, if you have a substantial gifting strategy in place where every year we're going to commit this much money, and then all of a sudden inflation starts to really sort of erode the purchasing power of your money, and you might say, well, look, we have to actually either dial back or stop permanently, or for some window of time, our gifting strategy. And then the folks that you're making the gifts, whether they know it or not, they to some degree they can sort of feel like, oh, we can bank on that every year. We're going to get 15 grand
unfortunately,
from our parents, or 30
happens,
grand.
right?
It happens, absolutely happens. You say, well, they can't. And if they were planning on that to address certain issues, for example, geez, that money that mom and dad give us every year, that literally takes care of so-and-so's college tuition, or a big chunk of so-and-so's college tuition. I mean, again, there's a ripple effect. If inflation starts to show up and that has a a negative impact on, to your point, mortgage rates, which drives down the housing market, and this whole idea of I was banking on my house to be a source of my money in retirement, and that's not happening anymore. So these sort of changes in the law, these changes in administration, there's a lot to look for. There's a lot of opportunity,
sure,
but there's also some peril.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up is just because it kind of hit me today. So when you open up the news and you see that the interest rates, the Treasury interest rates have gone up, right?
Yeah.
So for the first time they've gone over a point. So that's one of those kind of, and it doesn't necessarily mean that inflation's to follow, but that's one of those kind of, it was like one of those triggers where you're like, we're under this impression that interest rates are going to be low forever, and interest rates are going to be
because you have
been lulled into this
a huge segment of the population. If your parents would always tell you this, my first mortgage rate was 15%, for example,
and I refinanced to 12.5, and I was psyched, right? I was like, I can't believe it's such a low rate.
My first mortgage was 8.8.
Yeah,
8.8. I probably refinanced 5 times, right down to some ridiculous number. But we at the time there was just that weird, kind of hiccup in the system, if you will, and that's a snapshot in time.
But you go back to the late 70s,
15%, 16%,
where you're talking like crazy numbers right now that are preposterous, right?
Yeah.
And we've talked about
you couldn't even imagine them.
Yeah, you can't imagine. So when you think about that, so right now someone's going to buy a $500,000 house, right? Because they're like, oh, I can afford that. I can afford a $500,000 because I'll put down my 20%, so I'll put down my $100,000 and I'll take a $400,000 loan. You look at the numbers between a $400,000 loan at 3% versus a $400,000 loan at 7%. It's a different world. And
it's a different world. It's a completely different reality. Your calculation is, I can't swing that.
Yeah.
There's no way we could swing that.
So that idea of, and again, remember, we're coming off of one of the most incredibly historic economic things, I can't even describe it, that have happened over this past year as a result of the pandemic. The trillions and trillions of dollars that the government has been spending in order to try and keep the economy afloat, at some point there is a very real potential that inflation is going to catch up with that.
Yep.
And is it going to happen this year? I don't know. Is it going to happen next year? I don't know. But what I do know is that when you do planning, when you make these considerations, when you make these projections, when you build your estate plan, when you build this is and again, not to use like technical terms, but what I want to see happen for my future.
Right.
You have to take that into consideration. It has to be something you can't just ignore it. You can't just pretend it away, because if you think that, oh, I'm going to give some money to my kid, so my kid, if I have any money left over, like when we retire, and maybe I'm going to earmark some money for my kids so they can buy their first starter home. I mean, their first starter home, depending upon what the housing prices are, they may not be able to afford it if the interest rates are 8%.
To your point, if you think, oh, I'll give my kid $5,000 and that'll help them towards the down payment, and then interest rates go to 7 or 8%, you're like,
doesn't matter.
Well, the 5 helps. Don't get me wrong, but that might cover closing costs. I'm still squared up at 0 here. What's the game plan? I'm not suggesting that your answer is give your kid more money. I think what I'm suggesting is, John brings up a great point, which is you sort of have to factor in a number of moving parts, and inflation is just one of them.
Yeah.
And so if that's part of your plan, then that conversation you want to have with, if John's your advisor, which I hope he is, you want to have that conversation with John now to say, look, we can figure that out, but this is what we're going to do to combat that. This is what we're going to do to.
There's got to be.
Let's make sure we put something together that addresses those issues, right? That's the point. That's really what you're fighting for, right?
Yeah. So with kind of the eve of the new year and the new beginning and kind of trying to and putting the pandemic behind us, when you do those plans again, you always want to plan for everything's going to be great. And one of the things that we found out, that you and I have found out, in our what's our combined years, like 150 years.
150 years in the business.
Like that,
yeah,
right?
That's right.
Is that every plan's going to change. Nothing's going to work out the way you draw it up for the next 20 years.
Look, if we have to explain to anybody ever again that some things are going to happen that you just can't plan for, after having lived through a global pandemic,
Yeah.
then I
Think about it.
I don't know what message couldn't resonate more to say, you know what, that comment should end with enough said.
Yeah.
I get it.
Think
I
about
got it.
this time last year. Were we talking about this?
This time last, funny you said that. This time last year, and we were joking about this before. As part of your New Year resolution, take out your phone
Yeah.
and go back through all your pictures and look at your last pre-pandemic normal picture. Right?
Yeah.
What were you doing? Take a look at it. Last year at this time, we were 2 weeks out from heading down to Key West for 4 or 5 days with some friends.
Yep.
Celebrate my wife's birthday.
Not thinking anything of it.
Hooting
Not,
and
not
hollering.
worrying about where your mask was,
Nope,
right?
nope, mask, schmask. If I put a mask on, it was going to have a snorkel attached to it, right? and so we said at the end of the weekend, this was unbelievable. We can't wait to do this again next year.
Yep.
Do we book now? Don't worry, we'll take care of it when we get home. And even a couple of folks that we had gone with already this year, they joked about the same exact thing. They said, shouldn't we all be packing and buying 3 ounces of sunscreen? I said, yes, we should, but that's not how it goes. So to your point, if you think it's going to, if you want to make plans, that's fine. But, the world doesn't necessarily know you did it. So the planning is important, flexibility, and, make sure you adjust for it. That's the goal.
I do like the idea of, I'm a list guy, right? So and again, I like the idea of the fact that you're making lists.
I'm coming on,
to get stuff done, and it's a great way to kind of hold yourself accountable.
Absolutely right.
One of the things, though, and again, I'm just going to this is just from experience as a list guy. Sometimes your list can just be too overwhelming, and it can be kind of disheartening, because you're like, here's my list of 40 things, and I did 6. I did 6, right? Or and that's.
But the important thing is they're on there.
Yeah, they're on there. So
whether
I guess
whether they stay on there or not, you get to make the decision. I'm always worried about forgetting about my great ideas.
Exactly, right?
That's
So here's my advice to you. Here's some my help to you is, if for the things that you don't get done, don't beat yourself up about the things you don't get done, but congratulate yourself for the things that you get done.
Right.
So on your list, maybe if you have stars or maybe another pen, you could put a little star and I think you're going to, I have all the faith in the world. It's going to be a good.
Well, I'm going to congratulate you for getting the show done today. And congratulations. And you
Making
get all,
it here relatively
you're
on
here
time.
on time, and you dolled up. It's unbelievable.
Christian, what is your resolution? Do you have anything?
More money in the law. Great idea, Christian. Great
He
idea.
didn't say that. He did not say that.
He loves it.
All right, Christian, next time I want something in front of me so you can write them. I want them written down we're going to read your resolutions next time. All right, so think about them. You got a whole week to think about it.
Guys,
All right.
Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks for listening. We're looking forward to a great 2021. We're turning the corner on a lot of craziness, so a lot of fun to talk about.
Stay safe and stay healthy, right? The vaccine's out there.
Yep.
It's coming.
Stay safe and stay masked.
And keep your mask on. That's right. All right, we'll see everybody next week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.